The Nile is the longest river in the world, flowing north for about 6,825 kilometers. The Nile River Basin is shared by 11 countries. The Nile Basin Initiative, NBI, is a regional intergovernmental partnership launched in 1999. The NBI includes 10 member states, and Eritrea participates as an observer. The NBI slogan is "One River, One People, One Vision." The objective of the NBI shared vision is to achieve sustainable socio-economic development through equitable utilization of and benefit from the common Nile Basin water resources. The NBI aims to develop the Nile Basin water resources in a sustainable and equitable way to ensure prosperity, security, and peace for all its peoples, to ensure efficient water management and the optimal use of the resources, to ensure cooperation and joint action between the riparian countries seeking win-win gains, to target poverty eradication and promote economic integration, and to ensure that the program results in a move from planning to action. The Journalists Training Workshop, organized by NBI in Entebbe, Uganda in August 2014, was an eye-opener. It became clearer that there is a need for a more accurate, balanced and in-depth coverage while reporting stories related to the Nile River Basin. Peace in Focus spoke to Abdullah Gemeda, Speaker of the House of People's Representatives of Ethiopia. Mr. Gemeda is former Minister of National Defense of Ethiopia and former Chief of Intelligence. We focused on the role of the media in the Nile Basin and in covering the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam problem between Ethiopia and Egypt. Mr. Gemeda thinks that public diplomacy has been more effective than the media in clarifying misperceptions and building confidence between Ethiopians and Egyptians. You were among the Ethiopian leaders that met with the Egyptian public diplomacy delegation that visited your country in 2012. In your opinion, how successful was the Egyptian delegation in consolidating bilateral ties and easing tensions between Ethiopia and Egypt due to building the Renaissance Dam?
They achieve two things. One, they explain us about the Egyptian intention. That was they are coming from different society, and they explain us, and especially they were stressed to have a good relation with Ethiopia, to work with Ethiopia, not only with Ethiopia, with the rest of Africa, and to use the concern they have on the water. And they explain all things, and from our side, we considering seriously, we hosting, and we gave them a word of confidence, not empty word. We tell them that the details about our development, about our activity on the Nile.
You headed an Ethiopian public diplomacy delegation comprising 66 members that visited Egypt in December 2014. How successful was your 4-day trip to Cairo?
When we are coming here, we're very sure we can explain our intention to the Egyptian people. The Egyptian people understand us, and we can hear their concern from their mouths. That was our plan. And our plan was succeeded. We understood one thing. They are not objecting the development of Ethiopia. That is very important for us and important for our society, because the media from different areas says Egyptians are not want the development of Ethiopia. This is a message go to Ethiopian people. So always Ethiopians or those Egyptians are not want to develop Ethiopia, just wanted to seize the poor country. But this is false. Actually, we politicians are not, the Egyptians are not object our development.
Actually, President Sisi has repeated this and reiterated this many times.
Yeah.
And you met actually President Sisi.
Yes, at the end we met His Excellency President. He made it clear. The Egyptian people and the Egyptian government will be the supporter of the Ethiopian development. On the other side, we share the Egyptian concern, because Egyptians are 90 million people. They are living in 5% of the land which is on the Nile River. Everything depends on the Nile. We know before we come this fact. And also when the Excellency President and others explained about this problem, we more understand about the issue. So we share the concern. We share the concern, and also we have no intention to harm our Egyptian brothers and sisters, not for a day, for a second.
The Ethiopian delegation that you led included 66 popular figures from all walks of Ethiopian life. How did this disparity help in the talks and dialogue between the Ethiopians and Egyptians?
Yes, because, if you want to make it small, maybe we will bring from the government. The government is already engaged on the talk, on the discussion, and negotiation. But we have to come out from this sector, and we bring all sector of the society, including the parties out of the government. So to talk. And through our discussion, everybody is explained, and he says his view, and is interviewed by a lot of newspaper and so on and so. We hear from the president, we hear from the religious leaders, we hear from those career diplomats. So we have to tell. This is a source of trust and confidence. Again, we tell to the Ethiopian people the concern of the Egyptians. We know this is spoken by our Prime Minister, the late Prime Minister and the current Prime Minister so many times. But we are here, we hear from the mouth of the horse. So we go in details. So this is, I think this is this mission, this delegation, and the report we give to the Ethiopian people and our leaders will take the issue forward.
An African quote says, "You think the worm is dancing, but that is merely the way it walks. You think Sango is fighting you, but that is merely the way he is." And this brings me to my question about the role of the media. Your Excellency, it's no secret that there are media outlets in Ethiopia, Egypt, and other Nile Basin countries too that disseminate inaccurate information and misperceptions and create the other as an enemy. How can this be dealt with while guaranteeing freedom of expression?
Actually, you are correct. The many medias have intention to create violence, and some of the medias have no intention to tell to the people the good thing, always starting from the bad. And I think it is better to strengthen the Nile Basin media network, to have a common interest, a common stand, and to discuss together and to work for the people. Also, if there is not important thing to expose to the people, not to cover. So for me, it is very important to strengthen the Nile Basin media network. Already it is established. That establishment, for me, it is good. The intention of this Nile Basin media network is to promote peace, good relation between the Nile Basin peoples, countries. So this is
You mean to activate it then, if
Activate.
it is already there?
it is already there.
Does it monitor media performance? It doesn't, right?
No.
Do you think we need a mechanism to monitor media performance?
I think it is not useful to monitor. It is important to have such kind of common understanding on common interest. If we have common understanding on common interest, we don't need to monitor. I have interest on you, on Egyptian television and the print media, and you have a confidence on Ethiopian media. If there is something, you can clarify from both sides. So you don't need to monitor, but need to have understanding on common interest. I wanted to tell you one thing. Yesterday we met the intellectuals. I learned one thing. Most of them said from Egyptian side, we don't know you. Your print about your writing about Ethiopia is not coming to Egypt, and you don't know us. Our books are not going to Ethiopia, and we hear from the third party about Ethiopia. You hear from the third party about Egypt. So they said this is a problem. I think this is a problem. We don't need to hear the third party. We have to hear from ourselves.
Peace in Focus also spoke to print and broadcast journalists from leading private, state-owned and semi-official media establishments who visited Egypt in February 2015. They were part of a delegation of 28 prominent journalists from 15 Nile Basin and South African countries. The delegation was hosted by the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The one-week trip included meetings with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi as well as other high-ranking Egyptian officials, journalists and intellectuals.
From my perspective, because I've worked with the institution, the Nile Basin Initiative, and I can see the efforts to try and make sure that we start understanding where we come from, because some countries in the NBI, which includes countries like Burundi, Rwanda, Kenya and the rest, have a very small part even of Lake Victoria, which feeds into the Nile, and the Nile then feeds into the bigger river. The important countries are obviously countries such as Sudan and Egypt. But in terms of us being able to think of all these things as one is something that is crucially important. But I think the onus is on us and also the people who are responsible to look at the river, to look at the issues around the Nile and the Nile Basin, for us to understand where all these issues lie, where each country and its citizens are concerned, and to then be able to do this thing properly.
What is happening in Africa today? We have a lot of media organizations leaning towards the Western world, which report only on what they are all interested in them. For example, the Egyptians who were murdered by these thugs in Libya. One of the TV station had a footage of children saying that they were attacked in Libya, but it was not true. But what you can see is that what is happening in Africa, and especially the media, what we are doing right now is just copying and paste. Whatever is being said by the West, we don't just look at it critically and have the taste of our Africa Mother Africa, and see what fits our culture, what fits our tastes, what fits our people. But we just copy and paste and think that whatever is said by the West is good for us. And actually, that's where the media in Africa is losing focus. That's where media in Africa has lost focus and dignity, because we just copy and paste without looking at what impact. Is it negative for Africa? Is it positive for Africa? But in general, media must stand up and say that we have the best coverage for Africa and the best coverage for people.
So what are the solutions, sir? I mean, do you think that we need a mechanism to monitor the performance and at the same time ensure that freedom of expression is untouched? Or what do you think?
We need a lot of training, a lot of exposure, because like now we are in Egypt, we have seen for ourselves, we have now a better picture of Egypt. So a lot of training, a lot of exposure, so that we can know exactly what's happening on the other side of the wall, and also see that Africa belongs to Africa, and no one can build Africa except Africans themselves.
Sumaya Sayed is the first Sudanese woman to become editor-in-chief of a newspaper in her country.
أتحدث هنا بشكل شخصي عن الإعلام السوداني والإعلام المصري. نتحدث عن كيف يمكن أن نحدث إعلام متوازن لمصلحة الشعب السوداني والمصري، ونتحدث عن أن نحن في مصر وفي السودان أمامنا تحديات كبيرة جدا، والإعلام المسؤول هو الإعلام الذي يخلق نوع من التواصل ونوع من التعاون المشترك، لأنه أنا التمست حقيقة يعني دور فعال وتفهم كبير جدا للقيادة السياسية المصرية تجاه السودان، ونأمل أن يكون الإعلام المصري كذلك والإعلام السوداني كذلك.
Peace in Focus also interviewed President of the Arab Water Council and Honorary President of the World Water Council, Dr. Mahmoud Abu Zaid, who played a pivotal role in launching the Nile Basin Initiative. Dr. Abu Zaid took part in the negotiations related to the Nile Basin Cooperative Framework Agreement, the CFA, in his capacity as Egypt's Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation between 1997 and 2009. While interviewing Speaker of the House of People's Representatives of Ethiopia, Abdullah Gemeda, he blamed the media for propagating misperceptions and misleading the Ethiopian people to think that Egypt objects to their own development. He also blamed the media for misleading the Egyptian people to think that Ethiopia will cut or reduce Egypt's current quota of the Nile River. He said that Egyptian and Ethiopian politicians do know that these are just misperceptions and are false. Dr. Abu Zaid, do you think that we need an activated Nile Basin media body and a mechanism to monitor the performance of the media? And the aim would be to raise public awareness, clarify misperceptions, and boost sustainable development in the Nile Basin?
I believe so. And I don't know which media he meant, but actually both media were responsible for this misperception. We definitely need sort of body to monitor and follow up what media in both countries are saying and doing, and help them to get the right information. And I think both countries have already done part of this. We had a visit of media group from Ethiopia, and there is a plan for some media group to go to Ethiopia too. And I remember, by the way, when we, during the MBI, when we tried to put the different activities that has to be carried out by NBI, we did took into consideration the role of media. And I remember we invited a group of media experts, and we organized a workshop for them. And this should continue, of course. But there is a need. There is a need for a body to assist to that. The public believes what we are explaining to them, we are telling them.
Which the role of the media
The role
steps
of the
in
media.
also.
It's very important. So if we have seen some attitude from the public which is against the getting close to Africa, that was up to the media.
How successful have you been as Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation while dealing with the water file?
Well, I believe that I was very successful.
Okay, right.
And I hope this is true. As a matter of fact, some of my work was not made very clear to the people, and you might have heard and seen that some people are against that. But I think I have been very successful. You could see that from the actions taken with respect to the initiation of the cooperation between the Nile Basin countries, the MBI, the sort of projects which have joint projects which have taken place. And I remember when I first came to post, and I would go to Addis Ababa, the people will say, why are you coming? You are taking all our waters. And the taxi driver would refuse to take me in his taxi. And I would meet a minister or an official without talking to them. That was in the early days after I became a minister. But now, things are quite different. And I remember meeting the late President Meles Zenawi. I used to see him every time I go to Ethiopia. And I told him, what do you think about the NBI? He said that the best achievement that took place since NBI is confident building. That lots of confident building have taken place. Now we talk to each other, we are friends, we are welcomed in Ethiopia, they are welcomed here, we are getting closer to all days.
So you think that the situation, the relations are improving and that
yes.
confidence building is going on in the recent times?
Exactly, exactly.
And this, I think this was also what the Parliament Speaker focused on, that we really need confidence building between both peoples.
Mm-hmm.
And this also brings us to the importance of the media and public diplomacy too.
Exactly.
In your opinion, how detrimental was the mistakenly televised meeting between then President Mohamed Morsi and political leaders, and which included irresponsible utterances by political leaders about the Renaissance Dam? How harmful was that to the water file and to relations between Egypt and Ethiopia at that point in time?
I would say that it hurted very much, the relation between Egypt and Ethiopia. And it does not actually reflect the opinion of Egyptians. And I hope that we both consider this as history.
How important is public diplomacy in resolving water disputes, and why didn't we have public diplomacy initiatives during the rule of then President Hosni Mubarak? We only experienced this after the Egyptian revolutions. It was only one-track diplomacy at the level of political leaders and governments, and every time I spoke to then President Hosni Mubarak about the water issue, he told me that he knew how to deal with the other African leaders.
Well, I believe that public diplomacy is very important in water conflict resolution. And we should think of also water diplomacy. Water diplomacy is mostly what we were doing when we involve leaders and politicians and technical staff and so forth. Public diplomacy is broader when you involve
multi-track.
Yes, exactly, and that's why it's very important. We have done part of this after Hosni Mubarak. You talked about the meeting, which
the televised meeting.
It's sort of bad public diplomacy. couple of incidents took place after that when a group of people from Egypt, different disciplines, went to Ethiopia.
Yeah, this was in 2012.
Yes, and then the visit of His Excellency
Mr. Abdullah Gemeda.
Mr. Abdullah, yes, of course. Political will is part of public diplomacy, so it's important. Definitely, it's important to have political will, and we should have this political will before we go into implementing any public diplomacy actions. So it is important. We have to be careful, and it should involve all parties.
I had this impression that during the rule of President Mubarak, he wanted to be in control of the water file, actually. I mean, to what extent is this true?
Well, not only himself, because we should think of the role of the negotiating committee, the role of the higher Nile Water Committee, the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other ministries. But the upper hand was under his control.
The media has been blamed for misinforming the peoples of the Nile River Basin and escalating conflicts instead of contributing to achieving the objectives of the Nile Basin Initiative. But is this really the whole story?
I think that the media should not be totally blamed. It depends on the people the media talks to. If the media interviews somebody who is also ill-informed, it gives the wrong information. And if the media, instead of reporting objectively, puts itself into the story, then that's where the problem is. So that's where the media has to come out very objectively, and the people who are reporting should be well informed. They should be given information. They should be able to research and get the right information.
Partly the media is to blame. Partly the governments themselves are to blame. Sometimes you find that the media find it difficult to actually get the true information from the governments in terms of what is really happening. So it is both sides. The people need to be told the truth. And when you look at the role that the media plays, sometimes the media are restricted in terms of getting to the correct information about a particular situation. So in that case, they are actually restricted in terms of what they can actually report on. They will report what they have, and what they have might actually be not the whole truth about a particular situation. So access to information sometimes is difficult, and that leads them to not reporting the whole situation. Ideally, the media should have free access to information so that they can actually bring out the main issues that are there. On the other hand, the media themselves have got a responsibility to make sure that they investigate all the aspects relating to a particular situation rather than just relying on one particular source. They should get multiple sources. The multiple sources will give them a balanced story about a particular situation.